This is just a quick update on the progress on hQuestBuilder. Thanks to everybody who's given feedback so far and been so helpful and constructive in kind of helping me kind of piece together how people use quests and some of their kind of preferences in various places. I'm aware that this is a kind of secondary update video because the previous one is probably a little bit outdated now because of some of the features which I've added since then. So when you load up the page now, you will get this help and info overlay. Don't worry, it will only ever appear if there's something new that's been added to the site since you last dismissed it, if that makes sense. So what I'm trying to do is make sure you're aware if there's changes or updates happening. So the list here will strike out if I've hopefully got to some of these items. Some of them I don't think I'm actually going to be able to achieve, but they're good to have there as a kind of like wish list of stuff. Please do read the thanks and everything and pay Banjo a bit of a visit as well because he's been very helpful throughout all of this. But yes, this is just a kind of general overview to kind of introduce you to the kind of UI and kind of give you a bit of a guidance. Or you can completely ignore me and have a bit of a play and see if it's intuitive enough to use without even having any guidance at all. But there are some features now which hopefully will make it a little bit easier and also a little bit more robust for the future. So when the page first loads, you're literally just presented with the map or the board. And then if you click a tile on here, you're then presented with all of these items down the left. It's a kind of, you select the item on the board and then you select the item where you want it to go. So if I wanted a skeleton, for example, to go in this square here, I would do that. And if I wanted a wall to go here, I can do that. And then I can slowly start building up and kind of like putting elements in here. Some of these, as we work down, so kind of creatures, for example, you can just do that. If you want to swap it out, you just click on a different icon. Some of the icons, like doors, for example, doors and furniture, to be fair, if you click on them, they will be placed normally with a northerly pointing, and then if you keep clicking on the same icon, it will rotate it round. So basically it means you can put kind of, so for example, if we wanted a secret door here, we could do it in this square if we wanted to. And if you want to delete all the contents of a square, you just use this delete icon here. You can select here, and then you can actually put it on this side if you wish as well. Furniture pivots most of the time from the kind of middle center. And if it's something which occupies 6 squares, it's the lower middle center. So if we want to put a bookshelf along this wall, we can click on here and then rotate it round. If we've got an object like this table, for example, and we want to put it in the middle of the room, we can put it here, and then we can click on it again to rotate it to be central. Again, it works in the same way that the doors do. You just keep clicking on the icon on the left here, and it will rotate it into place for you. There's annotations at the bottom here. There's also arrows that you can use, and these are the kind of like stock arrows that kind of show in and outs for the edge of the board, I believe. This is a new addition, which is the ability to add kind of rock or solid rock in. So if we wanted to blank out this room, this one works in a slightly different way in that when you click it, it becomes basically a toggle. So rather than having to go back and forward, I've made it so you can kind of paint out the room effectively, or paint out the areas that you want to. There's still probably a lot of clicking involved, but it seemed the most efficient way of doing it because what I'm trying to do is make this relatively friendly on touch devices. So if you use it on a landscape on an iPad, for example, it should work relatively efficiently with you being able to use both hands, one to select the tile that you want, and then one to kind of scroll up and down here. I think that's mostly it for the items on here. I'm still working through making sure these are all consistent. I'm aware the annotations aren't quite in keeping with the modern graphic set that's with hQ21. I'm also planning to potentially have it so you can switch these to have it so that the map displays more kind of old school and traditional graphics rather than the new ones as well, if you have a preference for those. But that's kind of on the roadmap more than anything. Just to have a look at the icons at the top here. So if you want to close the side panel and you just want to have a look at the map itself, you can do that. If you click the question mark, it brings up that same overlay, which will display by default if you've never been to the site or if there's something new. And this little cog here brings up all of the quest kind of details which aren't to do with the map, basically. So you've got a quest title, you've got your kind of author credit that you can put here, a bit of narrative information, a bit of notes if they correspond to any annotations that you've put on, and the wandering monster. There's also the addition now of being able to add multiple quests. So by default, you'll have a first hQuestBuilder quest added onto this list, and then literally you can do that. It will clear the map, and you can start kind of putting gargoyles everywhere if you want to. It's worth noting that there is no limit at the moment on how many of these you can use. So you could have a bazillion staircases if you wanted to, but obviously we all know that there's only one in the pack. I might make it so these actually fade out when it gets to the kind of critical number that you actually get in the default set with the board game itself. But that's again something for the future. Basically, just keep an eye on it because obviously there are a limited number of things that you can have. Furniture is probably a little bit easier because a lot of these only are kind of singular items, apart from things like the tables and the bookcases. But yeah, I'm planning to look at that in the future. I'll probably make them fade out actually, so there's a bit of a kind of subtle indicator rather than it warning you too kind of dramatically. But I think we all know that unless you've got two sets, you can't have two gargoyles, for example. But anyway, I digress slightly. So on this list, you can generate as many quests as you want. It's worth noting at the moment that all of this information is saving to the local storage within your browser. So if you kind of move to a different machine, you will start from scratch again. So with this in mind, I've made it so potentially, just to show you, by the way, you can easily just switch between these if you wish to. And if you want to delete one, you can't have it selected. So you have to click the bin here to delete that, and it will say OK. If you try and delete one that's selected, it won't let you. In fact, to be honest, if you've got one, you always have to have one quest in the list. But if you're concerned or you want to make sure that you've got a backup of your kind of hard-earned quest that you've created, you can click this and it will download a little file here. And then later on, you can upload it. So I can show an example of a quick upload here if you want. So I've got one that I prepared earlier. Let's look at the Lost Prince, which is quite a lot of information. So I spent quite a bit of time putting this quest together. But having that kind of ability to upload and download for me hopefully reassures me that if anyone are using this on multiple machines or they've spent a lot of time, they can actually download their data. Because once you delete that local storage, which most browsers will keep in place, but it's very much machine based. There is a plan in the future to potentially have it so that you can save to the cloud and then say and actually share maps from the cloud. That's something that's going to get a little bit more time, and I need to look into it a little bit more and hopefully get a bit more feedback on this as just a standalone kind of app first before I go into the details of that too much. But it's very much something I wanted to do from the beginning. But if there's not a strong preference for it, because to be honest, what's nice at the moment is if you close these down, you can actually, if you wish to, print as well. This is another thing which I was quite keen to make work relatively nicely. There's still a bit more work to do in the kind of graphics and layout of this because it's a little bit simple at the moment, but it will print the map very nicely. If you want to, you can save as a PDF as well. The only issues that seem to be coming up with this is there are a little bit of graphic artifacts that are appearing on the map. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to be able to fix that, to be honest, but if you do print it from a PDF, it does come out perfectly. For some reason, I think the PDF struggles because there's an awful lot of elements that make up the map, and I think it might just be some graphical artifacts that there's not very much we can do about it, sadly. But all of that's kind of baked in, and there's other bits kind of planned for the future as well. But anyway, I have spoken probably far more than I did on the original introductory video, but that's just a bit of an overview on kind of the progress to date. Do get in touch if you've got any feedback or suggestions, and certainly let me know how you're getting on, and also show me your quests that you're creating as well, because this very much came out of necessity of me having a really easy and nice way to be able to create quests rather than having to use graphic packages and things too much. But yeah, enjoy playing around, and hopefully I'll send another update in the not too distant future. Cheers. Bye now.